YouTube fam, it's your girl Leah back again with another video. In today's video, as you can see from the title, is just a chit chat, current events, current topics, hot topics video, whatever you want to title it. So I got my drink beside me. I know it looks all red and it looks like a beverage, but it is 10 o'clock in the morning. So this is actually a grape juice. But today I'm going to sip on my juice and we're going to get into some topics. I asked you guys on Instagram if I do a chit chat video, what you guys want me to talk about. In today's video, we're going to talk about some of those topics in that video. Now, I'm going to link timestamps down below, so if you want to skip around, if some of these topics don't hit home for you, that's cool, skip around. But today's video is a little different. It's Vlogmas month, the month of December. People typically post videos every single day. You know, for me, that ain't never gonna happen. But I decided for Vlogmas this month, I'm going to do something very different for my channel. This isn't an everyday, this ain't even an every week thing, but today's chit chat, we just going to jump into the hot topics. So let me get my juice and then let's get on into the video. Now, the first topic that I wanted to discuss today was the verses. The verses that was supposed to happen Saturday. I had this all on my list. I had everything that I was supposed to talk about on my list today. As I record this video, it is Sunday. The verses was supposed to be last night. That did not happen. As we all know, Ashanti did come down with COVID-19, and so she was not able to go against Keyshia Cole. I was ready. I was in my bag. I was ready for that battle. It did not happen. I understand the cancellation. It doesn't make me any more happy about it that it happened, though. It is now scheduled for January, which it feels like it's so far away from now because it's like January 12th or something. But I have to say, Ashanti was open to doing it at her home, like the old style versus battle, you know, where somebody's sitting in their home, they playing their song, the other person playing their song, and all that. Ashanti was open to that because when this whole thing started, that was the way to be. We're still in a pandemic. I think people forget we're not in a pandemic. So the way to be was in the comforts of your home, them being in the comforts of their home, quarantining in their home, and then you quarantining in your home and you playing your hits. It was supposed to entertain us who were also quarantining at our home. I think Swiss Beats and Timbaland, you know, they got the Ciroc, you know, they got the Apple Music, they got all the sponsorships now. They were not going to be in any way up to this idea of doing it at home. No, ma'am. I'm sure that was shut down immediately. Ashanti was like, I could do it. They was like, no, man, how we going to get the Ciroc bottles in there? How we going to get all the promo? How we going to get everything we need to promote? How we going to make the money? No, ma'am, we're going to have to wait and postpone this. So I hate for it. I understand Swiss and Timbaland wanting to get their coinage and wanting to make their dollars and all that. I understand it, but also you got to do it for the culture sometimes. We was at home. We was ready. I was in a text message thread with my two friends and we was talking about it, gearing up. I don't think I knew it was fully canceled until 7. It's supposed to start at 8. So in my mind, I'm ready. I'm waiting for it. So, versus battle going down between Keyshia Cole and Ashanti, rescheduled for January. Now, I will let you guys know who my standout winner was going to be. It was going to be Keyshia. I think it was without a doubt going to be Keyshia. But in the text message thread with my friends, they were like, don't sleep on Ashanti. She's written a lot of hits. I know Ashanti has written a lot of J-Lo hits. To me, though, a J-Lo hit still not going to stand up against Keyshia Cole. Like, Ashanti could play I'm Real, and then Keyshia Cole play Heaven Sent, and I'm still gonna go with Keyshia Cole. So I'm gonna be very interested to see. Again, I haven't looked into Ashanti's full written catalog. I want to be surprised. I want to be like going into a battle thinking it's gonna go one way and it goes another way. I think I went to that Brandy Monica thinking it was gonna go one way and it went another way. I think I've gone into some battles like, oh, okay, I got my standout winner, and then being like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot about this. So again, I didn't play a lot of Keyshia Cole, Ashanti, just so that when we got into the battle, I was going to be ready to be like, oh, okay, this is it. This was my jam. And me picking Keyshia Cole isn't to say I didn't love Ashanti. I think I've never owned a Keyshia Cole album. I had that Ashanti Foolish first album ever. So I loved both of these women in the time that they came up in. You know, you just can, of course, love one's music a little bit higher. So I am excited for the re-battle. I wish it could have still gone down last night. I wish they could have just brought it back to the original format of verses and did it at their home. And so, again, excited, ready, and can't wait till January. I hope I'm still like as revved up for it then as I was last night. Now the next thing, the Real Housewives franchises. Now I'm watching 3 currently. I'm watching the Potomac, of course, Atlanta, of course, and I've been watching Salt Lake City. So I'm going to start in order of, I guess, the interest. So far, we've done the finale of Potomac. So let me get to Potomac. I'm going to run through each of the ladies. I think that's the easiest way to go since we are done with the season pretty much. Karen, the situation with Monique and Candace with the showing up at her shifting wigs party. What is my opinion on that? Do I think Karen tried to set them up? I think Karen wasn't trying to set them up, but I think she was trying to cause tension. I think she was trying to put them where it'd be a squeeze where they barely missed each other, so it could cause a little bit of tension in the scene, like, are Monique and Candace gonna run into each other? Oh no, whew, it barely happened. Like, I think she wanted to be an intense moment, but still play out where neither one of them came in contact with each other. I do think that's what it was gonna be. I do think she called Candace, personally told her maybe come at 5. She told Monique to come at 4:30, knowing that Monique could only stay 30 minutes. I think she wanted them to not run into each other, but run against each other in terms of the clock. Like, one's car pulling up as the other one leaves and it being like, oh snap. And they could have almost saw each other. I think also Karen's storyline with Ray, I think it's real. I think that, Ray is of a certain age and he is ready to be done. Karen is in her second wind where she's done, sometimes I think people go through a wind before motherhood, sometimes get into motherhood and sometimes lose some of their push in their drive. And then now she's not done with motherhood. You're never done with motherhood. But once your children are out of the house, then you might get that second wind of, okay, now what do I want to do? I want to do some more for me. So I think she's in that second wind, whereas Ray is past the second wind. He's done everything he wants to do and he's ready to retire. So I think they're coming against that, and that's definitely going to cause some strife in any relationship. I hope they're able to pull it together. 7 years is how long they've been together. 20 something years is a long time to have been together. But I do think with, continued counseling, they could get somewhere good. Now next, Giselle. I'm over it. I don't know what her thing can be next season. I'm going to run through to each person what their thing is going to be for next season. Do I think they need to come back? I think Karen always going to need to come back. She's kind of like I didn't watch OC after like the first 2 seasons, but she's kind of the Vicky, the OG. She's always going to be on it. Giselle, I think she's always going to be on it too, but I think she got to find something other than this Jamal situation because it's going to come to a head. I don't know if she maybe is waiting till the children get old. Because it'd be easy enough for her, wait till the children kind of get old enough, move down to Atlanta, just be on Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's not like there's not a franchise down there that is also predominantly black that you cannot be a part of. So you would just have to kind of get in with a different circle. But I think it would be probably the first time in Housewives history that one person has moved to another franchise. But I don't know how long y'all gonna do this long distance. I think it's very telling that the children are over it though too, and it's their biological father. It's not even like her mom is dating some rando. They're over it and it is their biological father. That says a lot. I think it's one thing if you're dating a guy your kids don't like and he is in no way attached to them kids, but for that to be their father, I think kids are always going to want what's best for their mother, and when they've seen what their father has done in the past. And then I still don't know what's fully going on with him and his other kids. I think if I was one of Jamal's kids and knowing that he had other kids elsewhere, I was one of the 3, the twins and then the older daughter, I would be like, okay, but like, I don't like the way he's treating the other children. Like, I don't like how we're partners in Arizona, but she didn't really say, are the other children, or do they have other restaurants? Utah's, Colorado's, do they have other restaurants named after, states in Atlanta that he's given to his other children? I think being a child and seeing of how a father treats his other kids is sometimes telling. Like, I think you feel special. Hey, my dad's looking out for me the most, but you also look at your brothers and sisters and say, hey, well, why is dad all after me? Like, I don't get that. So that could also play into their, I'm not feeling Jamal like that. So again, it's just a messy situation over there. Now, Monique and Candace, I'll speak on Monique first. Monique, I did like Monique. I liked Monique. I've always watched Potomac. I think I skipped 1 season of Potomac from the beginning. I think I watched season 1, 2, maybe skipped 3 and then came in back after that. I have liked Monique though. I've liked Monique since I've had the the time watching her. This season definitely shifted the wig a little bit, but I think that she should come back next season. I do think Monique should come back next season. And I do think, though, that they're going to have to bring in another person to be on her, I guess, team. If they're going to have team A being Robin, Giselle, and Candace, they're going to need a team B for it to be, it's going to probably be Ashley, Karen, and then one other person. Or if they keep Wendy's going to be on the Robin, Giselle. They got to have it because Monique wasn't seen them last 5 episodes. I kept forgetting Monique was a cast member on this show, quite honestly. So they're going to have to do something to get her more filming time, get her another friend, because they can't keep splitting trips. I think it's going to come to a head. You can't have 2 people who hate each other that much on the same show. So either there got to be a reconciliation between Candace and Monique, or they got to just be like a side A, team B, and they got to go for it that way. Monique, I think, took out the beginning a lot of her anger with the Cherie situation. I think there might have been some truth to her original situation and the issues going on with her relationship with Chris that kind of boiled over to Candace, and Candace kind of got the brunt of that. But I don't think Candace was all the way innocent in terms of her mouth. I do not ever think hands need to be thrown. I think, the thing I loved about Phaedra back in her days on Housewives of Atlanta was she could cut somebody deep with words and still sit in her seat. I never feel like I saw Phaedra get up like she was going to jump somebody. I could see her sitting calmly and just reading somebody in such a great way, like just sitting with her words. And so that's what I've always been, I love about a lot of these Housewives, is that the shade was just so epic. It was so real. It was so raw. You didn't really have to see them throwing hands, but I've never known Monique to be on the spot shade thrower. I've never thought of Monique as a Phaedra in the word sense that Monique on the cuff is going to come up with the words. I think Monique sitting on it, having time to marinate, having time to stew, talking to people, she could get her shades together. But in the moment shades, Monique ain't ready for it. I don't know if Candace is even ready for it. So that's why I think it escalated to we ain't got words anymore. We don't have the words to hurt each other. Now we got to throw the hands. We got to do the touchings. So Candace definitely, I think, is going to come back next year for sure, because I think she's going to do a pregnancy storyline. I think that's where I see it going. At the end of the finale, you saw about how she wants to have a baby this fall. I'm assuming it was this fall. She said she's ready. Her and Chris are ready to have a child in the fall. This was filmed last year. So the whole season of Real Housewives of Potomac filmed in 2019. So she said by fall, which I'm assuming this fall, she and Chris want to start. So I think her storyline, the thing that's going to keep her around for the next season, is going to be a baby. I think with Robin, it's going to be a wedding, because Robin ain't got nothing else going on but a wedding. So next year, she's going to have a kind of Cynthia storyline in the sense that, okay, a wedding is going to be what's keeping me on the show. Because what you have to realize is all these women need storylines, or else you're just going to watch them go out to dinner and do nothing and all that, which leads me to Wendy. Wendy is or it. Like, I can take her. If she doesn't come back, I'm not going to be super upset. If she does come back, she got to bring something more, because her storyline was the fact that she was going to quit teaching to be a full-time commentator. I understand that. Totally get that. It wasn't a big enough storyline to, I don't know, push us through. It wasn't anything that I was really like, oh, okay. Every time Wendy scenes would come on, it would be like almost a sign, let me go get something to eat. Like, let me go get me some popcorn. Let me do this, because Wendy wasn't bringing it. I'm very much so aware she got these 4 degrees. I think she kept pushing it, and I never want to negate anybody's, education. I'm a big, go to college, get your degrees and do all that. But I gotta be more than that. I gotta be a little bit more than degrees. And then moving on to Ashley. She gonna come back next year. I think she just had to come back because the people are just engrossed in this Michael situation. Like, I'm not understanding the fascination with Michael. Of all the men, it's like he is literally the worst. Like, when I look back at him cheating, he was in a hotel room with another woman where she was able to snap a photo of him in his underwear, meaning he was in the bed with her. Like, cheating is one thing. If Ashley had found out privately, maybe it could have been handled that way. This was public embarrassment. I'm not even a wife yet, but I can't imagine me looking at a photo of my husband, or even visualizing my husband in bed with a woman who is not me, with his underwear, where she's seeing all this. And he said they didn't do nothing. I am 100% sure they did something. So it's embarrassing on a public platform. Why go ahead and continue with this is beyond me. It's beyond me in the sense of, I think what I'm getting out of her and what I'm gauging is sometimes she's in her early 30s, I still believe. Sometimes you want to get your children, when you're still in your 30s. I think she's going to leave this situation maybe late 30s. I think late 30s, she's going to be out of here because then she's had her children. Because sometimes when we move on to our second marriage, it might not be about having children with that second man. It could be more about, I already got my kids. I love my little Dean and baby girl. I love these kids. I don't need that from this new person. I just want to be married for happiness, for love. We travel. We do what we got to do with the second husband. So I think she's definitely not going to be with Michael in the long run. I think it's a right now situation. It's just so painful to watch because Michael, there's no love. I don't see love between them. I see an arrangement. Now, Atlanta. I have to say, Atlanta has always been one of my favorite franchises. This year is scaring me a wee bit. And what I mean is, it's scaring me because I just realized there were 5 castmates. Only 4 we saw in the first episode. There are going to be 5 peach holding, I guess, castmates. LaToya Forever is going to be like a Tanya type of friend of the show, type of Marlo situation. But there are 4 that were seen in the first episode. I haven't seen the second episode. It airs tonight. I'm scared that it's going to be boring. I just think it's going to be boring. I can't even put a finger on if it's because Nene's gone or what it's going to be. But I just, in this first episode, I was not feeling it at all. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I grapple with the fact that it's during a quarantine. It's shot during what's going on right now with the pandemic. And the thing I liked about Potomac was that it wasn't really showing, even though I know I'm living in a pandemic, it wasn't really showing them in the pandemic. So it felt like, okay, they were out, they were going to the barns to have drinks, they were doing all this. We're not going to see that a lot with Atlanta this year. And I live in a pandemic. I don't want to also watch people live in a pandemic too. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing I like about some shows. Like, that's why the reality shows are different than the kind of TV shows, because TV shows don't have to cover the pandemic. Like, TV shows are in make-believe land for the most part. Like, they are in a fantasy world. Like, there's a show on NBC called Superstore. They can cover the pandemic and it would make total sense because they are like, oh, think about a Walmart covering the pandemic and all the crazy customers and running out of toilet paper. That's a funny premise. So Superstore, that could work in. If Scandal was on right now, How to Get Away with Murder, they don't technically have to cover the pandemic because they could be set up in a universe where the pandemic isn't happening. Scandal had President Fitz as the president, meaning maybe the pandemic never came over here, meaning they don't have to cover the pandemic. And I would still watch the show. I wouldn't be like, oh man, this show's not even talking about what's going on in the world right now, because this show isn't set in this world right now. It's not set with Trump as president. It's Millie president. So again, I think I'm more gravitating towards shows where they're not talking about the pandemic, but this being reality, it has to, because this is the reality of the situation. Now, going through the people, Candy's storyline, if it's this block situation and Riley going off to college, I never want Candy to leave. I don't never want Candy off the show. I think Candy got to be, even though she wasn't an OG, she didn't come that first season. I think she came season 2. So she's been from the almost beginning of this show. I always want her to be on, kind of like how I used to think I always wanted Cynthia to be on. But the block situation, we've done it. We've seen it one season. We didn't talk about it the next season. And then we're back to it again. I understand as a woman how tough it is to have a baby's father who is not present in the life, nor is paying for that child. I mean, not coming from, I'm not in that particular situation, but I have a biological father who essentially was a block, but even less. I think Kayla's seen her biological way more than I've seen mine, but I have a stepfather who I call father, who is that to me and is that to my life. So I have no qualms. I never have to have my biological in my life, because my stepfather stepped in and stepped up for me in such a way that it's null and void what my biological does. But I think that Todd and Riley never got that bond. They never got that relationship. And I also don't know how she was with her grandfathers. I don't know if she's had that male figure, if it's just been Mama Joyce and Candy. And sometimes we yearn for some kind of man. So we gravitate towards, whether it be our grandfather, whether it be like, for me, my stepfather was my father. Sometimes it can be like romantically. If I hadn't had that void filled with my stepfather for that man present, maybe early on in life, I would have been like, well, I gotta find a boyfriend. I don't think I'm as male driven because I had an amazing grandfather too. I think Riley struggles in the sense that I don't know when Todd and Candy got married. Was she maybe 13? That's a weird age. My mom and my stepdad got married pre-10 for me. So I was younger than 10. So he was in my life. My mom didn't date a lot when I was coming up. So he was the only man I saw. With Riley, I think Candy came on dating. I can't remember the guy's name. Was it AJ? She came on dating him. I think they were even engaged at one point. And then, of course, he left. And then Todd came in. I think with Riley, maybe she met Todd. They got married. And it wasn't looked at as my father. He's just still my stepfather. I think if you get remarried before 10 and the child's father isn't in the life, but that new guy can step in, I think it's easier to transition. It's easier for that child to latch on to the new man as a father figure. I think if you get married, 10 plus, so from 10 to 18, it's a dicey situation. You get remarried at 12 and this child maybe met this man at 11. She might not be feeling him like this. Like, this is my mom's husband. If you get pre-married past 20, like all my friends whose parents have married past 20, so their mom has married another man and they were in 23, and I think my other friend was like 28. That's my mom's husband at that point. That ain't even a conversation. They all say, it's so funny listening to them. They be like, yeah, my mom and my mom's husband. I'm like, yeah, I mean, technically that ain't your stepfather. You never grew up in a house with him, but she grew up in a house with Todd for maybe the last 6 years. She's not grasping that. She's not getting attached to that. So Block is still in her mind the father that she wanted, her father figure, but he hasn't stepped up and stepped in. He's told Candy she was acting like a broke baby mama. He acting like a broke baby daddy. Like just that bare minimum, if you create a life, you need to pay for that life. It's morally wrong to not be involved in that child's life, but if you're not even going to do that, pay for that child. I don't care how rich the mother is. I don't care if she could have done it on her own. You don't get a free get out of child care free card because the mother could take care of it on her own. She can, but she shouldn't have to. You had an involvement in this. So if you're just going to cut a check every month till the child is 18, that's the least you could do because you created a freaking life. I just can never, it blows my mind when guys have like 8, 9, 10 kids, knowing good and well that their check is not going to cover that, but somehow they're just like, well, my check isn't going to cover that. You create the life that you can provide for. You don't have 12 kids and you only make maybe $1,200 a month. How are you going to split that? So it's a storyline that I think is relative and it is good for a lot of women. I just think that Candy, if Riley's going to be off at college, Candy fighting this battle at home while Riley's off, and in New York City, it's gonna be weird to see. I don't know. She knows she can't do the restaurant thing because, of course, shut down. But she's in Atlanta. Atlanta's been acting like everything has been normal this whole time. So I don't know. It's a different situation. Well, Portia's storyline is interesting this year because she's Portia Luther King, as they're calling it on this show. With everything George Floyd, the Breonna Taylor, everything that's going on, she's been very much so vocal on social media. We've seen it. She's going to protest and all that. I've seen some comments surrounding whether or not what she's doing is fake or she's faking it for her storyline because, as I mentioned in my past, everybody needs a storyline and they felt like she would have one if it wasn't for the protest. For me, the one thing that keeps me from believing that this is fake is that she has a child. So she's putting her self at risk. She's putting her life at risk in terms of going to jail for, sometimes you getting out in a day, but what if they kept her longer? You're going to jail and you have a child at home. I think she's really in it because she's willing to do this while still having a child at home. She could have, half did it, I guess, gone to the thing, but I'm not going to get arrested because I got a child at home. The fact that she's all in makes me believe that it's a real storyline. I think I'm the opposite though. I think I would be guns a-blazing now while I have no kind of restraints, no things at home, no kiddos at the house. I think I'll be guns a-blazing now, and then probably when I, have children, I might be like, I'll protest with my money and from the house, but I cannot be on the front lines, getting arrested, especially if I think she's in a good place where she can, afford nannies. I don't know where her baby was because Dennis was with her at the protest. So it would just be like, I'd be like, okay, I got a baby at home. what can I do to support, but still, making sure that my family is safe and I'm safe for my family. But I think Portia is really about it. And it's good to see, because they kept burning us with that Underground Railroad clip from back in the day when she was like, how the train get up? Like that Portia, that was an interesting Portia. Kenya storyline, this divorce of Mark. Again, that's why I'm like, this season gotta come better, because we did this last year. Just get out of this thing with Mark. I mean, I saw it going downhill from the moment it was announced they were married. I was just like, I get it. She's wanting to have the child. She's been very vocal about wanting a child, wanting to do whatever it takes. I think this was a marriage to produce a child. She got her baby. Now you can get out. I think she almost really did love Mark, though. I don't know if Mark was fully invested, but I think she really did fall in love with this guy. It might have been a little bit more than getting the baby. It might have been like getting the baby and, oh my God, low key, I like this dude. I don't like this dude. How did she see any of this? It's almost like I'm not saying he's like abusive, but it's almost like emotionally abusive, like, because she's not even the same Kenya whilst with him than she was before. She's very much so docile. It's weird to see. So Kenya, get out. Cynthia's storyline is going to be this wedding, this 10-10-20 that we, of course, saw happen. She did get married at her super spreader wedding. I mean, it's just going to be the planning of that. It's going to be Mike saying, I want it to be just us. It's going to be her saying, I want a big wedding. For me, you guys know, if you watch my channel, I don't want a big wedding. I've never wanted a big wedding. I would probably prefer it to be just me and him, but I know my family's going to want to come, and I don't want to get it too big where it's like, well, if my family come, then this person got to come. That's why I want it to be as small as possible, because then I feel like once I invite a few people, then I don't know who my future husband is going to be and who he wants to invite. Like, I just want it small. My mom got married with my dad, and it was just a boom, boom, boom. And they've been married 20 years. My grandma and my grandpa got married. It was just her mom and his mom, my grandpa's mom and dad. They've been married 53 years. I mean, for me, it runs in my lineage to just do two people, because for me, that's where I've seen the most success rate. I've been to a lot of big weddings in my life, and I've seen at least out of all of them, 4 or 5 of them have ended in divorce. So huge weddings. And then my mom be like, so-and-so got divorced. What the heck? We went to that wedding. So for me, I think growing up as a child, going to weddings and seeing them not together anymore has always made me be like, well, why don't I just do what my mom and dad did and what my grandma and grandpa did? That seems like it works out better. But I get to the people who want a big wedding. I don't never knock people who want a big wedding. I just wish maybe she could have just got married on that day and then maybe had a big wedding after this whole coronavirus thing happened. I think it would have just been more safe. She could have had something in 2021 where everybody could have came and it would have been, perfect. But it's Cynthia. It's Cynthia. She had a big wedding with Peter, and we see how that happened. So the new cast member who I haven't seen yet, maybe she's going to come up on tonight's episode, Drew Sidora. I knew her from the game. More than anything, I know her from the game. Her name was Drew Sidora on the game. And so every time I heard Drew Sidora, she was the one who caused the rift between Derwin and Melanie. So I've always hated Drew Sidora. Even though it's a TV show, she shouldn't have had her real name on the TV show. She should have had a name like Stephanie Clausen or something. I don't know. She should have made up a name, but don't go with your real name, because now I associate your real name with deceit and lies. So when she comes on, I don't know what I'm gonna expect from her. She also was in Step Up. I remember her being in Step Up. She was in that TLC movie as T-Boz in the TLC movie. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about her personally, to have an opinion on her yet, but she got to bring something. I hope she is the cast member who brings something. I wish they could bring back Phaedra. I wish they could bring back Eva. I wish they could bring back somebody else, because what they have right now is not pulling it. And also LaToya Forever is going to be a kind of, friend of the show cast member. She's a YouTuber, so that's big for the YouTube, stratosphere, that somebody who's a YouTuber is actually on a show. I know she was going through publicly on her channel about her divorce. The thing is, I really hope that is not for the show. I really hope that she didn't create the drama to feel like she needed a storyline for the show to be like, well, I'm going through a divorce, and I hope that they get back together because they were such a good couple. But I hope that they didn't do this separation for the show because of a storyline, because it can create real problems. Even though they can get back together, and do everything after this, and they did it, they were acting or whatever it might be. I think sometimes that can cause real rifts, especially when you have very young kids, that the fake storyline could turn into a real storyline. So interesting to see how that will go. Briefly gonna touch on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Y'all watch that show. That's a very, very interesting show. It's a very interesting franchise. I might actually enjoy it more than I will Atlanta. It's kind of new too. It came out in November, so it's still, you know, rocking and rolling mid-season. You got Mary, who's married to her step-grandfather, her grandmother's second husband, True Life. Very intriguing. We just got some interesting stuff going on in Salt Lake. So I definitely say a franchise worth getting into. Now, in terms of regular shows, I got some questions about what regular shows am I watching, non-reality TV shows. So a lot of people were like, give us their take on The Crown. And I was like, surprisingly enough, I love The Crown. I just haven't watched the 4th season. The Crown is based off of Queen Elizabeth, the current reigning monarch of, England, and several other, countries as well. It's kind of following her life from a few years up until she became queen till I think now we're in the Diana era. What I typically do before I watch the current season is I rewatch the previous. So it's taking me a while. I'm only on season 2 in terms of the rewatch. I've seen season 1, 2, and 3, but I'm rewatching to put me in the mindset, put me back into Queen Elizabeth land. And then I'm going to watch season 4 where we're going to introduce Diana. Last season it was Parker Bowles, his current wife, was introduced, and I just wish that he had married her to begin with. I just really wish that, not that we wouldn't have a Princess Diana, we probably wouldn't have a Prince William, wouldn't have a Prince Harry, but just to cause everybody, no strife, we would probably still have Diana. Diana Spencer would be her name, and she would be off doing her own thing. So we would have never had to involve that, and we could have just, he could have been with his Parker Bowles. Camilla Parker Bowles. He could have just been with her, and they could have just been, living life as king and queen instead of having to go marry Diana because his family wanted him to, and then being back with Camilla later on in life. That's what I'm talking about with Ashley. You get your kids out of the first one, and then you move on to your second husband, and it be something better. I just feel like we could have avoided all that with, Prince Charles. I don't know if he ever going to become king, quite honestly, child. His mama is out here living, out here thriving, out here 100 and something, child, being the best queen, still being active out here in these streets. So, Queen Elizabeth's dad died pretty early. I think she thought she was going to have a lot more time. I think she probably didn't think she was going to become queen until maybe her 50s, 60, like an older age. That girl had to become queen at like 26, child. So that's why her reign has been so long. And again, she out here thriving. Her husband, Prince Philip, child, out here still living too. The whole family out here. I need whatever they are on because, honey, they got them. They got the medicines. They got the doctors. They got all that. So The Crown is a show on Netflix I love. But I've really been on my HBO Max kick recently since I guess I didn't buy it. I think I've always had HBO, but now I guess it's upgraded to Max now that Amazon finally got, it to come on the Fire Stick. So I've really been watching that. I watched this show called Cult of Cults recently. Y'all, get into Cult of Cults. Get into Cult of Cults because, honey, it's a 4-part series. It's about the Heaven's Gate cult, which was, I guess, a lot less of a scale of like the Jonestown, Jim Jones drinking the Kool-Aid, 900 and something people dying. This was 39 people dying. But it was a cult believing, a alien belief cult that they believed that, after Halley's Comet passed, there was a spaceship attached to the back of it that was going to beam them up to heaven. So that's why they had to kill themselves. So in 1997, when Halley's Comet came by for the first time in like 400 years, they all killed themselves and then believe that they ascended on the back of that comet. It's a cult that ranged from like 1972 or 74 all the way up into 1997 when they eventually passed. And then some former members died after or committed suicide after that. So the number on the day was 39. It's probably up to like 45 people who've died in total post what happened. So I think it's so interesting evaluating cults because the people who join these cults were so of sound mind. You always think, oh, they are crazy, they are insane, these people have to be nuts. So, but some of them, the way their family talked about them, some of them seemed normal. Some of them, were kind of like, well, he had tried to kill himself before, so this wasn't, unnatural for him to have these kind of mental health issues. But there were some people who had children who left their children behind at like 10 years old to join this cult. And I mean, watch the show, y'all, because they have a lot of sociologists on there, people who evaluate this, and I'm fascinated by it because when I was in college, I wanted to minor in sociology. So when I find people like this, it's always fascinating because how do you, for me, believing in aliens is, oh my God, that's so crazy. But you have to think about religions that have come, like Mormonism. You have to think about religions that are more recent. I'm using Mormonism as a reference because I know it's not maybe as old as a tradition as Judaism or Christianity and all that. But people who joined that and I think the 1800s is when Mormonism came around. People who jumped on board with these movements, and it is a religion. But did the original first few people who joined were people oh, that's crazy, oh, that's nuts. So I always find it fascinating about the origins of some religious groups and some cults and how people just gunzo, I believe this. This is what I believe in, and I'm gonna go ahead with this. So it's just so. It's so fascinating. Again, not conflating Mormonism with the cults and all that. It's just new ideas, new practices, new beliefs when they come about. Scientology, things that are so new. How do you get people on board to be a part of that? Watch it on HBO Max as well. On HBO Max, I watched the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion special. I know I'm late to the game. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I guess it's what I thought it was going to be. I knew, that these people loved each other, their camaraderie, they're a big family. I think everybody was more interested into the Janet and Will part of it. You could tell Janet was upset, child. Janet was upset, trying to, hold it back, but because she's been very vocal in the previous interviews about how she felt about Will Smith. So seeing that Janet who said those things come and sit down face to face with the person who she said those things about, she was a little bit tamer, but you could tell just why point blank said, why did y'all do this to me? In the sense that, they essentially blackball her forever because she got labeled that difficult. So we don't see Janet like that. I don't know if I personally watched the show, and some of you guys may have, but I've personally watched the show where I've seen Janet in the show. I Fresh Prince, and then I think she just disappeared from me off of my television screen. So addressing what she had going on in her life at the time. Do I think she was difficult on set? I can believe that. The way she describes her being in an abusive relationship at home, having that abuse in her home, I can imagine she might have brought some of that energy to set with her. I don't think she was difficult, but I think she probably was quiet. She was very to herself. I know people who have stressful at home lives don't want to come on set and be like, ha ha ha, happy, jovial. It's sometimes you're still bringing that from home on set. So she probably was, maybe they all having fun. Will Smith being 18, 19, 20. He said, I think he was 21 when everything was going down with her. When that is happening at such a young age, it's I want everybody to be on 10 like me. Janet's not on 10 like me. I'm done with her. She needs to go. She needs to go. So I can imagine that being his thing, and then everybody else being on board with Will because Will is the star. James Avery, I don't know, you never know, rest in peace, where he stood with her. It would have been interesting to see everybody in the cast say how they felt about her. They didn't really say it. They just watched the interview with him and Will, and then she came on later, and then she was gone again, and she was only there for a few moments. It seems like by the time baby Nikki came in, she was gone, which I guess she didn't really meet Nikki. She was gone before that little boy who played, the older Nikki was even there. So I guess technically they never ran into each other. But it's just very interesting, the dynamic. I wish, of course, she could have played Aunt Viv through the end. But I'm sure the one person on that couch who was happy to probably see her go was the second Aunt Viv. Second Aunt Viv sitting there if she hadn't got gone, I wouldn't be on the show and wouldn't be part of this. So thank you for leaving. Like, thank you for not re-signing that contract. So it was very interesting to see the dynamic between, I don't even think Will got raw and open as he could have. I think Janet didn't go as hard as she could have, but she went as hard. I think she went harder than Will did. Now, the last topic I want to talk about is just the topic of traveling content creators, traveling influencers. What do you guys think of this? I saw one of my favorite Instagrammers or content creators, I won't call her Instagrammer, content creators in the Charlotte area. She posted about just seeing content creators traveling during the pandemic and how you think it's best for them to travel during the pandemic and everything without being insensitive to what's going on right now. And I guess for me, because I have asthma, very severe asthma, especially as an adult, I have been taking this quarantine in the most serious sense that I could, in the sense that, you know, traveling out of the States has been like a no-no for me. It has been like something I'm not wanting to do. It's like being outside of North Carolina is not where my head is right now. You know, you see people go to Tulum in Puerto Rico and all these places, and it's like, it's so exciting. I would love to be able to, but I know if I get COVID, when they first said that your lungs feel like glass when you have the cough, I could just, my like lungs felt it and I wasn't even experiencing it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this quarantine and this pandemic super seriously. I'm going to take it so seriously. And not to say people who travel are not taking it seriously, but how do you guys feel about seeing content creators on the internet traveling? For me, I guess I just didn't never put any stock into it. Like, I saw it, but then, you know, and I still like the picture, but then I keep scrolling. Like, I didn't stop on it and really think about, hey, why are they out? Like, she suggested, or some of the people in the comments were actual travel bloggers, and they were like, I still try to share tips about how to travel safely and smartly during the pandemic, so I don't just go and just show, hey, this is all fun and all this. I also tell you about, you know, swabbing, me quarantining for a few days, me doing all this before really traveling and doing all that. So for me, I thought, you know, again, I pay no stock to it. I just like the photos. I mind my business and like the photos and move on. But I also would respect the content creators more who did show, you know, the travel precautions, the safety precautions, the masking up, the hand sanitizing. I know for some people, if you are a travel content creator, that is your job. That is what you do. So you cannot quarantine. You cannot stay at home. You cannot do what other people do. But also, I think what comes from the pandemic, and what I've seen a lot come from the pandemic, is the sense of people who have almost pandemic shamed people. And what I mean is, like, if you choose to be at home and like not go anywhere and quarantine fully up, people almost looking at you like, girl, you gotta live your life, or like, you taking this thing way too seriously, or they really done tricked you, or, you know, the governor really got you really scared out here. So it's almost been a pandemic or quarantine shame on some people who are actually taking it seriously. And then vice versa, you have the people who, you know, shame people who are out living their life, living like nothing is happening, no mask off and all of that. I mean, I definitely am on the side of, I'd rather be, you know, at quarantine shame than out here living my life shame. But I'm one of the people who, like, you know, if you're talking on a group meeting, or you're talking on, like, especially during the middle part of the pandemic, people would be like, what you getting into this weekend? And I'd be like, it's a freaking pandemic. I'm at home right now. You guys, we're not in an office doing this meeting because we are in a pandemic. So I'll be like, nothing. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so I haven't really done a lot. They're like, oh yeah. Well, you know, me and Scott just going to the beach or whatever. This again was the middle of the pandemic, so it's like, okay, so what? Oh, you and Scott going to the beach? I'm at home. Like, what do you want me to do? What are we gonna do about this? So I think I'm just of the mindset, mind your business, but just don't come near me if you out here living your life type thing. Like, if you out here living your life, cool. I'm not shaming you. You do what's best for you. You know your lungs. You know the people who are in your bubble. You know that, hey, I'm not going to go see my 80-year-old grandma, so I don't even care. I can, you know, because we can be asymptomatic. We can give it to older people who are definitely not asymptomatic. So again, I respect you, but don't come near me with that. I need to know who you are around before you come into my bubble and all that. So it's so interesting, like the whole shift that has gone on. And it's been more recently that people have been like, y'all gotta live y'all life. Y'all gotta stop being scary. I mean, it's nothing wrong with being at home. It is really nothing wrong. Unless you're going stir crazy, unless it's affecting your mental health and all that, I don't think there's nothing wrong with being at home and being okay in the solace of being at home until we can really get to know this illness a lot more, because I think it's ever evolving. So yes, that was kind of the entirety of my chit chat video. I wanted to do something different. You're not going to get a video like this from me all the time, but I think it was very fun to do it this time around. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Even if you didn't enjoy it, still give it a big thumbs up. We want all the love and support over here on this channel. Make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so you don't miss anything that I do over here. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram at Lavon89 so you can keep up with what I do and take part in the polls and the questions that I ask you guys in real time. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. This one will be private show. Tell me what you want.